fight fans, this is D and welcome back to the Standing Icon Fighting channel. Just wanted to do a quick video based on last night's fights on Showtime. There was 3 titles up for grabs: the WBC, WBA, and IBF. The first fight on the card was Jarrett Hurd, the IBF Super Welterweight champion, versus Austin Trout, former champion. The fight to me kind of went as I thought it would. Just like when Jarrett Hurd fought for the vacant IBF title against Tony Erickson. He starts off really slow. It took him a while to kind of build steam. What I did notice about Hurd is that he doesn't have the best footwork, and he's not really the best when it comes to defense or even throwing combinations. He's a pretty big guy, so when it came to Austin Trout fighting him, the speed advantage was on Austin's side. He was landing combinations, he was landing a pretty good jab and uppercut throughout the fight. He was getting backed up most of the fight, but he was effective in his retreat and counterpunching, and he did take initiative when it came to just being first in the fight itself. Jarrett Hurd, again, he's a pretty big guy. He looks like he rehydrates up to like 190 to be a 154 pounder. He looked at least 2 weight classes bigger than Austin Trout in the ring. He's of course really taller. I think he's 6'1", 6 feet or 6'1". So he's a bigger, taller, stronger guy in general. So even though Austin Trout was landing pretty good punches throughout the fight, or especially in the beginning of the fight, he wasn't really slowing Hurd down at all. Hurd, his head was getting rocked back. He was taking punches pretty well, but at the end of the day, he wasn't deterring Hurd at all. There was a clash of heads. I'm not sure which one it was, but there was a clash of heads in the fight, and it caused a large cut over Hurd's left eye. When he came out after that round, after the headbutt, he started to fight a little bit on orthodox. Had his hands down, doing a lot more moving, which I think threw off Austin Trout's timing. So it allowed Hurd to be a little bit more effective, and he stunned Trout a few times in that round when he changed up a little bit and had Austin really retreating to the point where I thought, you know, he seemed to get more tired just based on the amount of moving he had to do to get away, and of course with the effective punches Hurd was landing. Again, from round 7 is when Hurd really took over. His size advantage was really playing a part because he was, you know, he was chasing him around and getting countered, but he was putting a lot of his body weight on Trout, had him backing up and then landing effective punches here or there that Trout wasn't really taking well. He never went down. He got rocked. He stumbled a little bit. He was wobbled a couple times, but he never went down, so he showed true heart. His right eye was getting swollen up as the fight was ending, so I'm sure that affected his vision in terms of maybe defensively and also being effective in counterpunching. At the end of the day, I believe the doctor in Trout's corner waited off the fight, but he made a good account of himself. I thought, just based on experience, how he looked against Jermell and Charlo in the last fight, that he put out, considering Jarrett Hurd to me is not as skilled as maybe some of the other 154 pound champions in the division, but he proved himself. I mean, he was the first person to have to stop Austin Trout, and he did it, you know, in pretty, I guess you could say, impressive fashion, in the sense that he wore Trout down. What's next for Hurd? During the interview, I believe, after his fight was over, I think he mentioned that he's down to fight anybody in the division as a champion, but I think he mentioned that he would prefer to fight Lara because he's doing pretty well against southpaws leading up to this fight, so I think that's a fight that he called for. Next fight on the card, of course, Jermell Charlo versus Erickson. Let me begin that in that fight I was kind of pulling for him just based on the fact he's a Florida boy. I was born and raised in Miami. He's a product of Orlando, Florida, so I was kind of pulling for him. He looked impressive when he's fighting against lesser competition, but I mean, I might have been a little bit thrown off by his confidence and a lot of talking he was doing leading up to the fight. When it came to Charlo, I'll also admit that I felt Charlo was mainly just basically experience fighting for the opposition, the type of training he received with his sparring partners in the face. I'm not going to be smart to cover it all, but he has sparring here, sparring jazz, his bars, his experience, his training, I feel he's been out the day. I feel it's a pretty tough fight, a pretty close fight, and potentially go the distance, but fights that this man is on. Erickson just, jabbing, moving around, trying to get a feel of what Charlo had, and sure enough, Lubin made a mistake in like they're trying to defend or dodge right jab, and left jab, and he got caught with like a kind of a hooker cut, in the sense that I think Charlo couldn't have done an uppercut, but based on where Lubin's head was positioned, he kind of traded out the punch and landed a clean right hand that dropped Lubin. Lubin seemed to seize up on the ground. It took him a while to recover. I think by the count of 6, he kind of recovered, but by that time, the ref had already traded off the fight. During the post-fight, an incident happened where I believe somebody from Lubin's came to a chair in an attempt to try to hit Jermell Charlo, but I think they hit somebody else within the Charlo camp. That of course stirred up the Charlos. One thing I've noticed is anytime in a fight where there other opponents camp or other person, there's a lot of talking. Like after the fight's over, they're never gracious and victory. A lot of fights just trash talk, that manufactured beef for the most part. At the end of the fight, they shake hands, congratulate each other on a good fight. They keep it moving. Lately, when I see any other Charlos win, it's like they hold the animosity all the way to the next day. They never really are gracious and victory, which again, it kind of gives a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, because they're like, okay, well, it kind of gives that vibe that, you kind of want them to lose eventually be humble. One thing about Floyd, if I use him as an example, that he may do a lot of talking before the fight to kind of build the fight, and then when the fight's over, he always gives props to the opponent. He gives him credit for taking the fight, for being able to, get to the point where he did be able to fight him, and he doesn't hold any grudges beyond the fact or beyond the point of the fight being over. The Charlos, they just seem to just have this edge, whether you feel it's good or bad, where they feel as if you have to be angry and mad all the time before, during, and after the fight, which again, I guess it's just part of their personalities. But it's gonna, to me, it kind of left a weird vibe after the fight. And again, I'm not trying to say that Lubin's camp was right for what they were doing, before the fight, and of course after the fight with the chair throwing, but I just wish that the Charlos would be a little bit more gracious in victory, to where they'll become more likable. But again, they may want to be the villain. Maybe being a villain is going to generate them more money in the future, where people will pay to see them lose. We'll see what happens. As for Charlo, at the end of the fight, he did say, they did ask him whether or not he wanted to fight any of the other champions, whether it be Lara or Hurd, and he said he wants Jarrett Hurd next. He didn't mince any words. He said, give me Hurd. So we'll see what happens in the future, if that fight gets made next, or maybe sometime next year, in the midpoint or end of next year. Who knows? As for Lubin, he didn't get to showcase anything. I mean, he was finished off pretty quickly. He was pretty. I say he was gracious in defeat. He didn't make any excuses. He did kind of say he got caught with a shot he didn't see, which was clear. He seemed fine. He didn't seem emotional. He seemed very, very neutral in his demeanor. He didn't have any anger. He didn't have any sadness. He just seemed like, okay, the type of guy where he's young, he knows that he can get better and hopefully fix mistakes that he made in this fight and become world champion in the future. So time will tell. I kind of think, I kind of want to see him fight J-Rock. I don't know why. I just want to see that fight again. They're both opponents of the Charlos that got defeated by a devastating knockout. I just want to see what will happen in that particular fight. They both have one loss. Maybe they're going to try to move Lubin a little bit slower. Maybe give him a light touch or two before maybe stepping up in competition. But I would like to see Lubin fight J-Rock next, just to see, they're both still young prospects in the game, just to see who's come out on top in that particular situation. Maybe after they fight each other, the winner will fight another top level guy, and then maybe go after another title depending on the ranking and schedule of the other champion in the division. The final fight of the card was Erislandy Lara against Terrell. The fight was pretty much as predicted. I mean, I wasn't too familiar with Gausha at all. I saw one or two of his fights on YouTube. I mean, he's a former Olympian. He's undefeated. In his last fight, I believe he got knocked down, but still was able to pull out the victory by unanimous decision. In this fight, Lara pretty much did what he had to do. I mean, he was pot shot throughout the fight. He threw a couple combinations here or there. Gausha had his moments where, he kind of stung Lara, but nothing to the point where Lara looked too affected by it. His face stayed pretty neutral. He never showed any signs of stress or anger at all. He just did what he had to do. He got a knockdown, I believe. I guess I'm thinking around 4 or 5. It seemed more of a quick flash knockdown because Gausha got up and didn't have any after effects because Lara didn't make any attempt to kind of, attack and finish the fight. So I guess he knew, like most people knew, that knockdown wasn't anything too devastating to where he could potentially finish Gausha off. So the fight went to the scorecards. Lara won by unanimous decision. When it comes to Lara now, he said he's not opposed to fighting Charlo or any other champions within the 154-pound division. He's probably the most technical fighter out of all of them. He has power in that left hand, so he can knock out more opponents than it's been seen, and I guess you can say in recent memory. But what I believe is, just like they were saying during the broadcast or the telecast, is that Lara tends to fight to the level of his competition. If someone really pushes him and brings the fight to him, he kind of steps up to the plate and does what he has to do to win. But when the guy is at a lower level than him, he fights at that point where he kind of coasts, and in a lot of cases that the guy survive to where it can be seen as a boring fight. I'll admit that I wasn't too entertained by the fight. I watched it from round 1 to round 12. I was just hoping for something magical to happen, just like the knockdown. But after that knockdown, nothing really exciting happened. No significant punches were landed to where someone was stunned or hurt. It was just a typical boxing performance from Lara. Kind of giving me the vibe of maybe a sparring session, but that's just the skill level of Lara. I mean, that's a lot of the critique he gets as a Cuban boxer, is that they're really technical and they don't really go for the gusto in a lot of cases. That can kind of be said of Rigondeaux as well, although he does a great job to knock people out. But a lot of times, depending on the level of the competition, he doesn't look too spectacular. But at the end of the day or end of the night, all the fights are pretty good. Again, who's the top guy out of that bunch? Only time will tell. I think most of the consensus in the boxing community thinks that Charlo is the cream of the crop now, 154, based on his knockout streak and the level of competition he's faced now that he's champion. But again, we'll see what happens in the future. Let me know what you guys think of the fight. I did a live post-fight video with my brothers in the boxing community. Can't be saved by the bell and Owen's Boxing Dialogue. We're now part of the SDBC, Split Decision Boxing Community. Look out for us. We're gonna do a lot of live videos in the future, a lot of collaborations, and hopefully grow so we have more members to be part of the community and get some good boxing talk going on. So be on the lookout. And again, let me know what you think about the fights. Please like, favorite, share, comment on this video. This is D with the Standing 8 Count Boxing Channel, SDBC. You guys have a good week.